How's everyone doing tonight?
Think I'm the only one here.
Uh, yeah, actually, there are people coming in.
Okay.
How are you, Stan?
I'm just fine. I'm gonna have to not be on the call tonight. My wife scheduled another appointment for me and I didn't realize it. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
I gotta head out, but I'll listen to the replay on it.
Okay, great. Well, it's nice to touch base with you.
Hey, thanks a lot for hosting this.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
So I see some other people coming in. How's everyone else doing tonight? Hi, Debbie. How? Okay, we'll wait a few minutes. It's a few minutes before the hour, so we'll wait a few minutes for some other people to join us. While we're waiting, if anybody hasn't found the chat button yet, sometimes the chat comes in handy. You should find a little, what looks like a little speech bubble icon somewhere around your screen here. Mine is on the bottom. I'm on a Mac. And if you click that, it'll open up a chat window where you can type messages to everyone or to specific participants. If you choose everyone, then obviously everybody can see them. And this is where I'll ask you to put in your questions when we get around to the questions. So where's everybody joining us from tonight? If you want to stick that in the chat so that I know where you're all located. Tucson. South Korea. Wow. What time is it right now in South Korea, Nikki? Eight a.m. tomorrow. Okay, cool. The magic of the internet. Columbia, Maryland. Providence, Rhode Island. Hi, Kitty. Glad you could join us. And I'm in my home office in Orlando, as you probably all know. And Susan, where are you joining us from tonight? Can you put it in the chat? Wow. Okay. You just moved from Orlando. Okay. All right. Let's wait just another minute in case we have any stragglers. Do I miss traveling? Yes, I do. I do. But I'm not done with it, just temporarily not doing much of it. How did you like Prague? Yeah, I can understand that. Okay, well, according to my clock, it's exactly 7 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started. And for those of you who weren't here when I first uh, got online here, uh, look for, if you haven't found it yet, look for a chat button because we'll be using that later. It's a little icon that looks like a speech bubble, and on my Mac, it's below my screen. I'm not sure where it is on a PC, but if you click it, it'll open up a chat window, and that's where I'll ask you to type in your questions when we get around to the question part of the evening. And I wanted to thank you all for joining me tonight. It's great to have you all here, and I hope you have some questions ready to ask. Actually, nobody submitted any questions by email ahead of time, so this is all going to be live and spontaneous. Kitty is here tonight, and some of you have met her before. If you haven't, she helps me out on these calls, and she's also my co-host on the soon-to-be-released podcast that we're starting. And she's up in Providence, Rhode Island. She's a very talented, creative type person, but she also is a great administrative assistant. So she'll be helping out with this call as well. So with that said, let me share my screen, and we will get started. Just give me a minute to set this up here. Okay. And that's not what I want you to see. There we go. Okay, so tonight we're talking about the myth of passive income. And I want to make sure everybody can see this screen. So if you can just indicate in the chat window, yes, if you can see it. And Kitty, this is covering up my chat window now, so if you can just let me know whether everybody is seeing it okay.
So far, so good.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's get rocking and rolling here then. Okay, so some people think that passive income means it's raining money. Woohoo! Wouldn't that be nice to have a magic button that I can just click and make the money rain down on me? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work quite that way. So, what is passive income? At its most basic, passive income is income you can earn while you sleep or while you're on vacation. In other words, while you're doing other things. Some examples of passive income include selling something in an e-commerce store, getting a commission from an affiliate link, selling a digital product, signing somebody up for a course that you offer. There are all kinds of things that can turn into passive income. The difference between passive and active income is that with active income, there's a direct correlation between the time you invest and what you earn. Now, you might not be trading an hour for a certain number of dollars. For example, if you're a freelance writer, you maybe don't charge by the hour, you charge by the project, but you still pretty much know how long a project is going to take you, so you know roughly what you're going to be earning per hour before you start, and you base your fees on that. And at the end of the day, you have a finite number of hours that you can devote to doing what you're doing. So there is a very direct correlation between the time that you invest and what you can earn. Now, with passive income, there isn't a direct correlation, because once you've written the ebook or created the course or done whatever it is that you're, created whatever you're offering to sell, a big part of your job is done. Now, your whole job isn't done, but a big part of it is. And from that point forward, it doesn't matter much whether you're selling to one person or a million people, because the amount of your time and effort is going to be similar either way from that point. So passive income, unlike active income, is scalable. You invest the effort to create the product, you market it, and then many people can purchase it. You could earn $1, you could earn $100, $1,000, you could earn millions of dollars. So passive income, having a passive income source allows you to leverage your time and scale your time. Now, some people seem to think, as I showed in the beginning, that passive income is something where you just click a button and all of a sudden you earn all this money. That is absolutely not what it is. It's not easy and it's not effortless. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Pat Flynn. He's got a blog called Smart Passive Income, and he makes quite a lot selling and teaching people how to develop passive incomes. And he says, we work hard now to continually reap the benefits later. So even with passive income, there is definitely hard work involved. So before you can earn well, you need to have something to sell and you need to have an audience to sell it to. Conventional wisdom says if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. In other words, start with a product and the audience will show up. That's not so true today. I'm not sure if it ever was, but it's definitely not so true today. Today, the most successful online businesses actually take the opposite approach. You'll be more successful if you build your audience first and then create the products that they already want to buy. Now, if you're not familiar with this concept, it might sound a little strange to you, but stay with me. It's a concept that started with what they call lean manufacturing. And if you do a search for lean manufacturing, you'll find tons and tons of information about it. It then started to be used pretty extensively in the software industry. And even though we're not talking about manufacturing or software here, the principle is still the same. Ideally, you'll find a niche that you're interested in, and you'll develop an audience that you enjoy serving. Now, that's a whole process in itself. I'm not going to get into detail about that tonight. That's one of the things I'm doing with the roadmap course I'm developing. But once you've determined who you want to serve, in other words, who's your audience, then you need to find out what it is that they need, that they're willing to pay for, that you can provide. And the simplest way to find out is just to ask them. Now, you don't just say, what do you need? Instead, you come up with an idea and then run it up the flagpole. Henry Ford famously said that if he had asked people what they needed, they would have replied faster horses. And we know that's not what he provided. So here's an example of something that I did recently. I was starting to think about offering a service through my WordPress site. And I was wondering whether people would pay me to audit their existing sites and help them to make the site more successful. So I ran it up the flagpole. In one of my e-letters, I just asked, is this something you'd be interested in? And sadly, only one person responded positively. Well, that tells me that it's not something I should pursue, at least not right now. It was a little disappointing, but mainly I'm happy that I saved myself a pretty large amount of time by not creating an offer that my audience didn't want. If I had gotten a significant response, I would have let them know I'd be putting them on a waiting list, and then I would have set up the systems that I would need to offer the service and make it work efficiently, and then I would have started taking orders. So if you have an idea for an ebook, before you put the time into writing it, offer it to your audience. Pretend it actually exists and offer it to them in the best way you can. Let them know that they wouldn't get it right away. They'd be on a waiting list. And some people even take this a step further and ask for a credit card at this stage. Then, if you get a big enough response to make it worthwhile, you invest the time in writing it. Now, obviously, you're going to offer your product to the wider world, but if your core audience doesn't want it, you'll have an uphill battle, and you probably shouldn't spend the time to make it. Then the next step, of course, is to create the product. And it doesn't matter whether it's a novelty t-shirt, a course, an ebook, a subscription. Once you've gotten a strong enough indication of interest, then you can go ahead and actually make it. Now, if what you're doing is using advertising or affiliate links, you're not creating a product, but you still need to find a way to present it to your audience in a way that resonates with them and encourages them to click. So there is an element of creativity involved, even with an affiliate link. And then once you've got the product, selling it to your audience is the easiest way to start sales rolling in, and then you want to market it as widely as you can and build on your initial success. It's passive income. It's not a passive process. So I thought we could do a little brainstorming here before we get to specific questions. I've listed 10 things here that are different ways that I thought of to create products that you could earn a passive income from. But I'm going to actually ask you to type in the chat what other things you can think of that might be a good way to develop a passive income. And I'm going to exit out of the full screen here so that I can type your responses and you can see them. And this way I can also get back into the meeting. So, blog posts, yes indeed. Private label products on Amazon. Yes, Susan, that's very good. That's actually a very popular way to develop passive income sources today. It's called Fulfilled by Amazon, or FBA for short. Crypto tokens. Okay, that's something that I don't have a lot of knowledge about, but I know that's a growing thing. Drop shipping items. Yep. Dan, can you elucidate a little bit? Do you mean that you would actually provide the service of drop shipping, or that you would offer items for sale and use a third party to ship them? Stock photography, yep. Any other ideas? Oh, okay, Dan, thanks. Yep, that's, so you're talking about Fulfilled by Amazon also. Okay, stock music. Okay, that's interesting. Nikki, are you a composer, or are you talking about creating music and then making it available to sell, to license to people? Cool. Now, I've actually used a service like that when I was creating some YouTube videos. I downloaded some music from SoundHound that was, licensable, and used that for my intro and outro. So yeah, that's definitely a thing Downloadable audio products. Okay, like Lorraine, downloading downloadable audio products like audio books, or can you be more specific? Patreon. Oh, of course, that's right up your alley. I should have thought of that, Lorraine. Okay, so I'm trying to type these in while you're all putting them in the chat here. Okay, Patreon is a little bit different from some of the other things we're talking about. Steam. Okay, that's a new one on me. Maybe you can explain what Steam is for those of us who don't know. It's a token that earns you points via blogs. Okay. I'm going to unmute you and ask you to tell us about that, because that's a new one for me. Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Steam is a token it's a token. It's also a means of exchange. So it would be like earning Bitcoin for your blogs or your content that you share on that site, on their site.
I see. So instead of charging somebody to access protected content on your site, instead of charging them and asking for a credit card, you would ask for the token, which acts as the means of monetary exchange. Is that right?
Yes, but it's
okay.
Automatic. It's automatic.
Right.
To access your blog, they'll be contributing Steam to you.
I see.
You.
Okay.
Then you have the capacity to exchange those into a fiat currency like US dollars.
Sure. Okay. Well, thanks. I always like to learn something new. Okay. Let's see. What other suggestions do we have? Okay. Kitty points out that in relation to ebooks and courses, you can also offer printables like a PDF that people can download from you. Yep, that's true. And printables for games. Okay. So Kitty, I'm just going to say printables here because that covers a multitude of things. But yes, absolutely. Any other ideas? Okay, so I'm going to just quickly share my screen again so you can see all these things that I've typed in. And see, I started with 10 and we've got another 9 here. and then another 4 on this page. So when after we're done tonight and I make this available as a PDF, all of your ideas will be on it, so you'll be able to keep them. Don't feel like you have to write them down now. But if you think of other things as we're answering questions, by all means, toss them into the chat window there, and we'll see how many we can gather before the evening's over. So I guess we're at the point now where I'm ready to answer questions. So if you have a question, if you could just type it into the chat, and do me a favor and just put the word question at the beginning, or put a question mark at the beginning, so that it's obvious that it's a question, not just a comment. And that would be great. So I'll give you a minute to do that. And I'm going to take a sip of tea here. Yeah, Nikki, that's a $64,000 question. Nikki asks, how do you begin to build an audience? And I have to say, it used to be a lot easier than it is now. It's been interesting to me since I started the Anywhereist how things are different online than they were before, because I started, well, my first venture into the internet space was back in the mid-90s when I started up a website devoted to a consumer issue that I was pretty passionate about. And that was actually before blogs were even invented. But if we had had such things, then it would have been a blog, because that was actually kind of the way I ran it. I added new information, and it was all in reverse chronological order, which is exactly what a blog does. And gained an audience very, very quickly for that. My next venture was when I started my Future Expats website. That was back in 2009. And again, it was pretty easy to build an audience. In 2012, I started my WordPress building block site, and that was the site that was actually the place where I earned most of my income from. And now I've transitioned away from Future Expats and into Anywhereist, because I decided that Future Expats didn't really describe what I was doing anymore. And it's not as easy to build an audience today as it was, I have to say. So the first thing, the first step in building an audience is to find a niche that you don't have to be super passionate about it, but you have to be interested enough to be able to write about it and explore it and spend a lot of hours doing it. Ideally, it's a niche that not only holds your interest, but that has enough interest from enough other people that they can become your audience or your tribe. One of the ways you do that is through careful research into keywords and the way people are searching online. And that's kind of a moving target now, because more and more people are searching on their mobile devices, which means instead of typing into a browser window, they're asking natural language questions. So you need to find a way to do the research that works for you. And there are lots of different tools for that, but that's really where it starts, because Sonia Simone from Copyblogger has a great example of, you can be passionate about a subject and you can create fantastic content about it, and you can do all the right things to optimize your keywords once your content is written. But if your topic is naked mole rats and nobody's interested in naked mole rats, you're not going to attract an audience. So sometimes it's just a matter of changing a word or two in the way you're using language to appeal to more of a target audience, but it starts with your keyword research. Okay, any good examples of fulfilled by Amazon? Oh my goodness. Not right off the top of my head, Dan, but I mean, all you have to do is go to Amazon and search for anything and look at the third-party sellers and see what they're doing, see what they're offering. I mean, the information is right there in front of you. You just have to spend a few minutes looking at it. Which countries have the lowest taxes on passive income? Well, I think, we call it passive income, but we're not talking here about income that we're deriving from investments. We're talking about income that we're deriving from work that we do. So it's any country that I know of is going to consider it earned income. As far as the lowest taxes on income from investments, that's not my area of expertise. I can't really help with that. Susan wants to know, what kind of work did you do when you lived out of the country? What do you feel is the best way? Well, I started my WordPress building block site when we were living in Panama. And anytime you want to earn income from an online business, the fastest way to start seeing revenue is to offer a service. But as we've discussed, it's not scalable, and it requires an exchange of time for money. So after you've established some kind of a service that you can sell to earn the income you need, then you can start pivoting and figuring out ways to take that or take something different and turn it into a more passive income source that scales. But initially, what I did was I built WordPress sites for people and got paid for doing that. And it was a very, very quick return on my time investment in setting up the website. Okay, Kitty wants to know, is there a rule of thumb for how large your audience should be before you start selling to them? Not really. Now, you're not going to get anywhere with advertising unless you've got a huge amount of traffic on your site. And by huge, I mean like over 100,000 visitors a month. And that's okay. Let me back up a second. That's if we're talking about something like Google AdWords. The little ads that a lot of blogs and websites have kind of scattered throughout their content. It used to be that was a good place to start, but today in my opinion, you're really wasting your time with it. If you have enough traffic to attract advertisers that you can negotiate with directly, you can earn some pretty decent revenue with that. And you don't have to have a huge audience for that. You just have to have an audience that is really engaged with the topic, that are a very good target match for what the advertiser is selling. Now, as far as when you start selling your own stuff to them, you can do that pretty early. You don't have to have a big audience to do that at all. There have been times when I've made offers to a mailing list of as small as 200 people. So again, it really depends more on how engaged they are than on how many there are if you're selling your own products to them. Okay. Susan wants to know, do you use much social media to attract clients and followers? I do. And I'll be perfectly honest with you. I don't consider that I'm terribly good at social media. I don't know why it is, but it's not a language I speak comfortably. It's kind of like, young people today who grew up with computers seem to be they just have a natural affinity for it that I don't have. So for me, it's more like, learning a foreign language as an adult. I can get by with it, but I don't feel really fluent. But yes, I do use it. Where to market ebooks and process payments? Well, you have lots of choices for that. You can upload them to Amazon and Barnes and Noble and some of the big retailers as a Kindle book or a Nook book or whatever, and let them handle the payment for you. Or you can sell them on your own site and handle payment through a service like PayPal or Stripe, or if you're doing enough business, you can get a merchant account that lets you take credit cards directly. That can be kind of a big pain in the neck, and it can get expensive. So you have to weigh out the cost versus the benefit, but there are so many ways to accept payments today that it really isn't an issue. Okay, Susan says, I see people selling products on Instagram and Facebook. I was wondering if you think it's something that works. Absolutely it does. I actually have bought products on Instagram. In fact, you can't see it, but here, maybe I'll just pick up my laptop and turn it around for a second. I have this nifty laptop stand that has adjustable legs that can do all kinds of interesting things. And I actually bought it off an Instagram ad, so I know it works. Debbie says BookFunnel offers a way to sell ebooks through them. Yeah. As I say, there are lots of ways to sell digital products now. So that should never be a stumbling block. If you have an audience and have an idea for something that they would want to buy, don't let the mechanics of the technical aspects of how you're going to sell it slow you down, because they're easy to deal with. Okay. Any other questions? We're kind of running to the end of our time here. So I think we have time for one more question if anybody else has one. When am I going to start traveling again? I wish I had an answer to that, Susan. It depends on things, family things completely outside my control. Nikki asks, what are some resources to learn about niches? Well, depends what you want to know. I've got lots of information on my site about it. And if you want to email me, I can certainly steer you towards some other resources. We're going to have to wrap this up now because we're going to get cut off in a minute anyway. But I thank you all for joining me tonight. This was fun. And if you have any other questions, you can definitely shoot them to me in an email. And hope you all have a great evening or morning or whatever time of day it is for you. Okay? Take care, everyone. Good night.